Greetings! Welcome to the devlog for experimental build 2 of update 113 of hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades. We're going to start off as always with a quick sound check. Make sure speakers aren't up too high. Wonderful. So what have we got for you this week? Well, the Great Scope Adventure, the Great Scope Rebuild Adventure, continues, and I have got some new features and a whole bunch of rebuilt scopes to show you folks this week. So let's just dive right into it. We're going to turn around and just take a look at the whole table full of fun to look at. I've got, thanks, Ollie and I have been working along on these, and we've got some new exciting features for them. And so we've migrated about 20 of the existing standalone optics and a few of the integrated ones on various firearms. You can see here I've picked some of the worst offenders in the game in terms of how their scopes have been from a usability standpoint to see how much better they were in this new system. So let's get ourselves a testing weapon to start off with. I'm just going to grab myself a 416 to start with. Perfect. So let's start here. So for new features, we will start off with one of our newer optics. This is our 1X Prism, because we've got several things to show off, one of which is actually an option in the options panel. We're going to have simulation options. Whoops, I need to change the text there. So the first thing is, one of the things that was asked last week was whether there would be any sort of parallax simulation in the given optics. Now, people can mean different things when they say parallax for that. In reference to scopes, it oftentimes means the sort of apparent distance from the scope that the reticle is in focus. Now, that's something we can't really simulate here because game rendering is not done as a series of discrete focal planes. It'd be prohibitively expensive. But one thing that we were able to improve this week relates to essentially the lateral parallax of the view when looking down it. So this is what this looked like last week, where you'll notice that even as I move left and right here, the front iron here feels kind of awkwardly centered. This is wrong. This, with it enabled, actually is more optically view correct. Now, there is one downside to this because it's essentially using whatever my draw camera is for the scope view. This does mean that if I had the spectator camera enabled, especially with a bunch of filtering, the scope view would look a little wrong through the scope when I'm moving around. So if you're trying to get very, very accurate footage of yourself using the spectator camera looking down a scope, you'll want to turn scope parallax simulation off. For everyone else, leave it on. It's going to be defaulted on, and it's going to give you just a more accurate depiction of what you're looking. This is more obvious when there's actually like a front obstruction over here. Yeah, let's just grab ourselves. Are you the front? You're the back. Grab a front sight. Just, you can see the difference here. Like, notice the position of the reticle relative to that front sight there, and here it is with it off. You can see the difference in the way the projection is drawn. This is more accurate and realistic. So yeah, so that's in there. Now, the next big part. This, I know I said last week I was not going to do this. I almost immediately was like, oh, it's worth doing, which is physicalized controls. One of the reasons that some of this work took so much time this past week is I relented and was like, you know what? Let's make scopes have physicalized controls. So, with our 1X Prism here, we can see this nice turret on the top that is our reticle settings. So you can just grab this on top. Look at that. And just twist it left and right between all of our settings. Nice and quick. You don't have to have the scope options open when you're doing this, but if you're doing something like, say, adjusting elevation or windage, you might want to. So you can see that the unit of measure is now shown for that. So there's me adjusting windage. is nice too, because it's not just that there's not just a sound there. You get a little bit of a haptic bump as well for a little physicalized feedback for it. You'll also notice that reticle colors here are not just like reticle color 1, 2, 3, but are actually like red 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, green 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So that has been upgraded about that. Now, as you might imagine, those sort of physical settings make things like our LPVOs significantly, not you, yes, significantly easier to use. Because with this type of optic, let's bring you out a little more. Bring that up. Beautiful. We want to be able to just grab this magnification wheel and just go whoop like that. Bam! Now we're zoomed all the way in. Have another threat. Wham. Short range. Ah, wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So yeah, you will see as I slowly migrate these optics over, you're going to see these various sorts of interactions here available for our magnification, available for our windage and elevation. Do note that a few of these may in fact be like backwards still. A couple of these are sort of misconfigured. I'm still working on it. I believe our left one here, is this a reticle? Yes. Beautiful. That's so cool. I love it. Absolutely love it. There are let's get ourselves an AK. Pop that in there and put our PSO on. I haven't actually tested some of these things, so hopefully there are no bugs. But yeah, in addition to our elevation and windage turrets on the top here, this switch, yay, that switch does work. So here's our switch between our illuminated and non-illuminated reticle. Oh, that is just great. You'll notice, by the way, that all of the reticles on all these new scopes are as crystal clear as they've ever been. They're all angularly accurate, or as accurate as the data available online would allow them to be. Always been working super hard this past week, actually like sitting there and doing the math to figure out where all of the different holds and various marks should be present on the optic for them to be mathematically accurate, at least for the caliber that they were designed for. Oh, magnified shooting is just so much better now. One thing that to be aware of, though, with the change with these is that traditionally in H3, to pick up a scope or to detach it from a weapon, you have grabbed it in the middle, like along the main tube. Because we now have physicalized controls everywhere, I can't overlap those triggers without issues. So now, pretty much every magnified optic is grabbed via its actual connection base. Which this one, there we go. Like so. So when you're going to pick them up and going to pull up their menu or pull them off your weapon, you're not grabbing them here in the middle. You're grabbing them roughly where they affix to the rail. What else? What else do we have to show? Well, I guess let's just take a look at a bunch of these together and see what the quality is like. So we have the EM2 here. This has been just a hilariously terrible optic because it is, well, I mean, look at it. How that ocular lens is what, like 6 millimeters? It is as teeny as one gets. Begin new set. But significantly more usable. It's still not amazing, but this is as good as it has ever been in-game. Significantly easier, honestly, to accurately shoot than with the iron, which is new. I mean, I would still take almost anything else over it, but hey, if you're EM2 shooting, the scope is now actually functional. Moving right along, another one that I know tons of you hate, the FRF2, and this is because of the fact that, like, beyond everything else, this is an 8X, which has been challenging to work with for sure. I haven't actually tested this, so we're about to discover together how this is. Oh, that's not bad at all. The reticle, I kind of wish, Ollie's going to kill me, but I kind of wish the reticle line work was just a little bit thicker, a little bit more opaque, but it just may be how it is. Bam. But yeah, so much cleaner to see through. Yeah, this rifle in most other cases in the past would just be like, you just shoot it like this instead of fighting with its optic. This is actually usable. You know, an 8X is honestly pretty great. Moving right along, this one, I feel like this one's important because despite the fact that the new optic system is great, it has all these things, it can't save everything. And I think of everything being converted over, sadly, the G36's optic is still probably the worst. It is just... Oh, and is it just broken? Yup, it's just broken here. Oh, you know what? I know what's going on. I was fighting with some scaling on this before, and I must have not saved some settings on it. I believe the standalone scope should be correct. So I guess we'll just see. Yeah, there we go. So there's our G36. You can see the ocular lens is not huge. The eye relief is kind of pissy. The reticle's okay, but, you know, especially if I was putting, other than just for looks, because that does look awesome, I think I'd probably put pretty much anything else on here instead. Let's get some of these. I've got too many things spawned at the moment. Cool. And this is giving me, oops, and it looks like I don't have an interface to even detach this. New bug found! Into the garbage you go. Bye-bye. Let's spawn ourselves a different testing gun. Let's grab something in the battle rifle category. Ooh, I'm going to grab this because this is an interesting example here. There is, for weapons that have their rails all the way forward, unless you're playing with eye relief off, there's a lot of scopes that are not actually going to have an ideal distance for you. There's going to be some that are way better than others. So an example of one that really wants to be right up to your eye, we have the BR4. This is not, yeah, look at that. That does not want to be this distance from us. That wants to be, if I pull this all the way back here and hold it here, the BR4 is similar to the Suzat in that it wants to be right up in your eye by default. That's just the way eye relief is configured on an optic like this. However, I believe, what is this? This is the Lion 2.5. This is, I believe, a scout scope. Yeah, this actually wants to be this distance. So that's one of the interesting things about going more realistic with this scope system, is instead of scopes mainly just being a function of magnification and do you like the reticle or not, there are other properties to concern, like where you want to mount them on the weapon. Do you want the scope out really far or up close? Honestly, those of you, some folks who watch me play Take and Hold are like, Anton, why are you putting that so far forward on your rail? I love the sort of scout scope position for an optic. Just looks so cool. So yeah, so there are several that are configured this way. If we actually go and grab a Deagle, yeah, let's grab our ridiculous long barrel one. I love this one. Whoops. You'll notice that the Deagle scope is also configured for that. Actually, I think interesting. I might need to play around with this a little bit. This doesn't really like it pushed all the way out. You actually have to pull it in just a little bit. Good stuff. Good stuff. Oh, I mean, just look at that. Beautiful, beautiful. All sorts of reasons to play around with our new optics. Ooh, here is a classic. Let's grab ourselves... Oh, I never remember what category they're in. Yeah, breech loader. Let's get our rolling block. Adore this rifle. I will be a rolling block stan forever. This is the W330 scope. Absolutely tiny lens. I haven't actually tested this one yet either. I just got this one working, I don't know, 20 minutes ago. So let's see how this looks. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's great actually. That's so much clearer than it was before. Bam. Oh yeah, it is. It is rolling block time now. Beautiful. And I believe this one actually is one of the examples of ones that we have reticle type. So we can either go with a classic crosshair, just a post, which is like that, if you prefer. Or, what is it? Post with line is the third option. Beautiful. And when we get a bunch of ACOGs in next week, we actually have just a mess of reticle, because it's like a bajillion reticle variants for those, and Ole has gone and authored a whole bunch of them, so you'll be able to swap that out and tweak that on the scope. And eventually these will be properties that will be properly serialized down and saved with the gun. Right now they're not, because I just haven't gotten to that code yet, but that will eventually be present. Ooh, let's check out our Mosen. Hope you folks don't mind me just going through and testing a whole bunch of these. As I said, I've been working so intensely on them, I haven't actually gotten much chance to test them. I just was racing to get them ready for today's devlog and update. Beautiful. So, Mosen scope. New set. Oh yeah, look at this might be the single clearest reticle in the entire game. Super unambiguous where you are aiming. That is great. Points so naturally. And we have both the Mosen and the SVT40 version of the PU scope converted over to new systems. Beautiful. Just beautiful. Ha! Oh, gorgeous, gorgeous. Let's see. I think that just about does it. I mean, I've pretty much shown. There are. Let's get something that has a top rail. Oh, we'll just grab this one here. Not that this is the prettiest of them, but you will notice there in terms of physicalized. Oh wait, that goes on an M16 style weapon. Silly me. That one's for that. That one's for that. Oh, I think I mentioned this earlier. The Suzat sight is a little bit of a sad trombone in that, yeah, this is still not close enough for it. The Suzat sight, similar to the BR4, wants to be like practically in your eyeball to aim correctly, so just be aware of that. F's in chat for all the L85 stands. put that over there. But yeah, let's pull out. Man, I've made a mess here. Go back to assault rifles. Pull out an M16 A1 here. Got a few of the carry handle optics in. So this one's interesting in that it has a physicalized. I think this might be the only scope that has a physicalized control for this. But the option in the menu that is your base 0, this scope actually has an option that puts it between 100 and 200 meters. Those are its only 2 settings. Goofy upside down reticle, so weird. And honestly, I love this one. This is the art. Has a similar magnification wheel. So here it is out there. There's a zooming all the way up with it. That is just fantastic. Super clear reticle. Easy to use magnification wheel. This is like clearly the best optic to use on a carry handle. It will totally be my go-to. Wonderful. So there you have it. That is this week's scope update and test. As I said, there are about 20 scopes in all for you to check out. They should appear in Take and Hold. I'm no longer using like separate testing scopes. These have just replaced the old scopes whole hog. So they are in the spawner. They will spawn in Take and Hold. And yeah, we're just going to continue working along in terms of bringing these, manually bringing these all online with the systems. I'm going to jump out of VR here. Yo. So yeah, in terms of what we're still working on for the system, other than like, we've got like another 20 some magnified optics to migrate over, and we've got some plans for some new ones. There's a few that we'll be leaving that are just like, don't actually map to a real life optic, or it's just a terrible model. And all of those will be sort of routed to their closest fit. We're going to build a completely new, like I think 6 to 36x magnification scope, and that should cover a whole bunch of the ones that are like the 8 to 12 or the 3 to 12, and the 8 to 24 will be replaced by that optic. Just because there's some of them, they're really old models in H3. I don't think they're either like not based on something real, or they were based on some horrible like Walmart special. So we're going to replace them with something quality to use. But yeah, but beyond that, the goal is to just get everything migrated over. And then there's still a couple options that still need to be wired in. So we need to still add in the ability for things to be mechanically zeroed. So there are certain sorts of scopes, especially for, say, for a grenade launcher or something like that, where a physical mechanism on the scope is raising up and lowering for its zero. So we need to get in a system for that to make it possible to like use an MGL with a scope. Right now, trust me, if you want to see something weird, put like the 1X onto the MGL and set its base zero out to like 200 meters, and it just clips down through the through the launcher, because the angle required to do that's just ridiculous. So I want to have some sort of solution for that. But beyond that, there's a couple other options that we need to wire up that I think are most relevant to modders. It's been apparently some of the modder folks like actually use like an individual scope view for like night vision stuff that has like 4 different optics, like performance ridiculous things that shouldn't be in the base game. But if modders are going to use this system to rebuild their own stuff, those options will be present. So probably next week or the week after, there will be some quality settings you'll be able to set that allow for basically you can think about it as being a width and a depth for rendering cost for scopes. There is the number of sort of simultaneous parallel scopes that can be active at once. And so if that's, say, set to more than one, you could have a pair of binoculars and one each could be drawn. And then there's a depth setting, which is like if you stacked scopes, how many can a scope see a scope? Can a scope see a scope that sees a scope? By default in the game, for obvious reasons, that's going to be set to 1 and 0. But I know a lot of folks have really beefy rigs, so they want to do ridiculous things with mods. So we're going to enable you to do a bunch of things that are very much not performance safe. But well, they'll be there to be an option. It'll be in the games. It'll either be under simulation settings or quality settings when it's done. But they're not fully wired up just yet. I need to actually like test them and write some static code and things like that. But just to give you an idea of what else is in the plans. But yeah, so the goal is just to continue getting things migrated over the next week or so. In terms of our long-term schedule, just so you folks know, next week there will be another experimental build. It'll have new scopes, possibly some new scope features. And then I am going on a trip to the Northeast. I do like a yearly trip to go visit my family back home. It's a multi-stop trip. So I will be gone for the fraud. There won't be any sort of like devlogger update on the weekend of the 22nd and the 29th. And we'll see how exhausted I am to see if there ends up being something probably small for the 5th, because I won't be getting like back here until late afternoon on the 3rd of April, and I will be exhausted. So that does mean, just because of like when I had to plan this, there isn't going to be an April Fool's H3 update this year. I apologize to those of you who like look forward to super cursed guns for that. I'll be out of town. It's not really feasible. I'll make it up to you folks with something utterly cursed for later this year, I promise. So anywho, that just about does it. Please continue using these testing scopes. Let me know what you think. The feedback so far has been super invaluable, and we're just going to continue this difficult and painful and time-consuming migration that is clearly already worth it. So I'll see you folks next week. Peace.